Let's go. I am going to show you some amazing stuff. I'm looking under the hood of this Venus retrograde and what it's teaching us. It's something very big happening in the universe at the moment, and our relationships are getting the spotlight on them. We're thinking about what our part is in the way we experience our relationships, because Venus retrograde is turning our focus inward in a reflective way. And if we use that energy correctly, we can go into the internal workings of what is within us that creates who comes to us out there and why, and the nuances in terms of how we respond and react to the people and the things and the relationships that we have in our lives. So we often look out there and blame the other person for not being how we want them to be. But hey, of all the experiences you could have in life, or all the people you could be with in life, you're with that person. So what in you created this connection in the first place? And we're thinking about that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we're thinking about that, taking more responsibility. We could do one of two things. We can take more responsibility, or we can keep pointing the finger. And when we keep pointing the finger, we're not empowered to make the changes or the choices or the adjustments that we need to make to start to enjoy this person that's in our lives, or be honest with them. Now, Venus is in Aries right now, and Aries energy is all about being honest. It's a clear, crystal clear energy that wants to go forward, and it doesn't take corners. It's just unimpeded energy that's just like a wellspring coming out of the ground. And Venus is in Aries, but it's going to make a sojourn back to Pisces. And when we're in Pisces, we're looking at a much finer nuances about all of this, and that's what the journey is. Venus will head back to Pisces and connect with some very high level, unconditionally loving, compassionate energies to open us up and soften this love nature we have, where we're not just like this, where we are connecting on a more soulful level and looking at more of what this universe is opening up in us. So let me share the chart quickly for you so you can see. Now, what you won't see looking at this chart at first glance are how these planets are connecting at more subtle levels. And I want to tell you that one of the most important planets right now in this whole picture is Mercury. Mercury is right on the North Node. And the North Node is where we're heading forward, and it is in Pisces. And it's wanting to create a more magical life that has some soul and spirit in it, that moves us beyond ourselves into a higher frequency. And that particular planet, is right between both Venus, which has just gone retrograde, and it was on the moon at the time, and the sun. So this is Mercury midpoint, the sun and the moon in essence. And then Venus is obviously there. So what that means is that who we are from the past and what has brought us to today, it has soul and has memory in it. But the sun is here, and the sun is taking a very clear look at the situation. It's putting the spotlight on. So that's how we begin this Venus retrograde. Now, I looked even further at what else is happening, in particular with this Mercury midpoint to the sun and moon. And the vibration that it's strongest in happens to be in the 37th vibration. It's actually in the 111th vibration, but to know about what that means, we have to look at the prime number that it comes from, which is 37. And 37 is a little bit like the 13 vibration, and both 37 and 13 are magnifications of this natal chart by that many times. So you get to see under the hood, so to speak, of what's in the engine, what energies are driving this. And what's driving this are some connections to this particular one, Juno, and she's all about relationships, the higher octave of relationships. And in those higher vibrations, Mercury's sitting right on Juno, thinking about who it is that I'm with, who am I in this relationship, and who do I want to become? And the planets here are all conjunct, and Mercury's over here. So the Sun and the Moon and Venus are conjunct, aspecting Mercury and Juno, which means we're looking at our relationships, very much so looking at our relationships. And now the bottom line is that it's time to take responsibility for what you have created and promoted and allowed in your life in terms of your relationships and the way you experience your relationships. It's not so much who that person is, but it is how you experience it. And because the Aries energy is so honest, it's going to ask, it's going to ask questions like, does this relationship support me in my independence and my drive for independence, my drive to act freely in my life and be me? Because sacrificing ourselves is under question. And it's under question because it's not about sacrificing and losing yourself. It's about looking at what you're there for. And if you're not there to improve your life and to open up to more loving, then why are you there? So that is happening where Venus retrogrades that way, and will eventually on the 27th of this month, March, sit right on top, head into Pisces and sit right on top of Neptune. So Venus and Neptune together is incredibly important because Venus is our attraction to beauty. It's the attraction principle in our chart, what it is that we see in life as beautiful. But Neptune is adding a higher octave to that. It's all about unconditional love and coming together as one and uniting with our source. It's at the late degrees of Pisces, so it is a critical degree of 29 degrees and 53 minutes, which says, have you learnt this lesson? Because if you haven't, then you're going to miss the boat. More or less, you enter this field of a higher octave of love where you consider that this person that you are in relationship with or relating to is an aspect of you. There's no borders or boundaries when we have the Pisces energy. And we're entering into some pretty big energies where some changes are happening at the eclipse. And the day after the eclipse, Mercury goes retrograde. So there's a lot of inner reflection happening. But what I want to mention here is that there is another couple of planets aspecting Mercury as well. So we have a 5-planet pattern, which is called an isotrap. This is very, very powerful. and it involves the sun, the moon, and it involves Mercury. So as Mercury's involved in all of the eclipses and then goes retrograde. So we're questioning what it is that we see, what it is that things mean. How did I create, promote, and allow this? How did I attract this person into my life? And what has to change? This planet here, Uranus, will create change in quite a sudden and unexpected way, and Pluto will intensify. So the fact that those two big players are adding into this, when and if anything happens that creates a massive change in your life, you might just have to go with it, because it's going to be soul evolutionary stuff that happens. If you get to be on the receiving end of a change, it is a massive realignment so that you can birth more of your authentic self in connection with spirit. So it's a letting go of control and a becoming of more of who you are spiritually. And the eclipse is saying that, as is the Venus retrograde, as is the upcoming conjunction with Venus and Neptune. So the eclipse is very powerful because the big player there is Mercury again. So Mercury will be opposing the moon, and the moon will be at an exact midpoint to Neptune and Mercury. So we will have awarenesses of another nature, not thoughts that are generated by what I can have, do, and achieve. It's more who I am and who I want to become. So there is a vibration in these connections which indicates we are tapping into our soul purpose. The vibration 13 says this is my life. I'm here for a purpose. I want to become more of who I truly am, rather than the past, or this moon energy saying be the same as you were before. It's saying I honor and appreciate what has brought me to today, but I'm not stopping there. I'm not stopping in yesterday. I'm moving forward. Uranus wants us to, is just going to boot us into the unknown and the unexpected, and a clear and present dynamic force of energy to create change. And that is in the actual eclipse coming up. So be ready for that and go with it, because it's not like the energies are there to make life difficult. They're there to align you into a more authentic version of yourself. So that's my short little take on this. And we're in for a really big ride that's going to take us into a future that is more authentic and more aligned spiritually. And honoring that, if you're in that right place, there's a lot of opportunity. So I hope that helped you a little bit to understand what's under the hood. And we are all in this together to align. And when each person aligns into their more authentic self, that benefits the whole. Pluto's in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius says, you know what? You're all part of this dynamic interrelation of humanity that has gifts and talents that need to be unique, because no one person and no one way can fulfill everything. If everyone is strong in their strengths, we have a stronger society. Each to his own, says Aquarius energy. Let each person do themselves and gravitate and align to your people. It's not for us to change a person, it's for us to align with the group or tribe that we can thrive in. There's been a lot of adjustment of friendships being lost, relationships ending, situations changing, all because we're being shifted so much to a fresher, newer, more dynamic energy. And if we align to it, we can be of greater service to each other. Hope that helps.